Hello and welcome, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about Henry Ford and the Nazi Party, and to ask the question, did Henry Ford fund the Nazi Party? Well, I can give you the answer right away. The answer is no, but he certainly showed it a lot of support. And before I go any further, I need to make it quite clear that whatever Henry Ford may have done in his life and what he may have believed in, that we should not use this as a representation for the Ford company today, which clearly disassociates itself completely with what Henry Ford was getting up to. So there is no conclusive documentary evidence that Henry Ford in any way financed the Nazi Party. However, there are a number of things that Ford certainly materially and ideologically supported anti-Semitic movements whose ideas were fundamental to Nazism. Nazi leaders, especially Hitler, believed Ford to be a benefactor or potential benefactor and publicly treated him as such. Ford's writings and reputation provided enormous indirect support, legitimacy, and propaganda for the Nazi movement. And claims of direct funding exist in contemporary records, but remain unproven due to the absence of surviving financial records, and so that this is quite important. Now, in the New York Times in late 1922, that's even before the putsch or anything like that, there was an article that reported rumours that Henry Ford is financially backing Hitler. Hitler this time was totally unknown, or really unknown, these reports noted that Hitler kept Ford's portraits in his Munich office, and copies of the International Jew were visible and treated as ideological text, and the Nazi Party appeared very well funded for a fringe movement such as it was. However, the New York Times did not claim to have documentary proof for this, and it explicitly stated that it was reporting rumours, not facts. The thing is, as far as Hitler's concerned, in 1923 gave an interview and he referred to Ford as the leader of the fascist movement in America, and he praised his anti-Jewish stance. And in Mein Kampf, which was written when 1924, published 1925, Ford is cited approvingly as a proof that anti-Semitic ideas could flourish in a modern industrial society. However, Hitler never produced proof that Ford had funded him, but then again, lots of companies eventually did support him, and they might have got rewards indirectly, but not so much publicly for it. And I would therefore say that Hitler had ideological admiration for Ford, aspirational association, and he was giving strategic signaling to potential donors. So would this company be interested in giving us some cash? We'd be all the more pleased to actually get it. Now, in the 1920s, it wouldn't have made any difference, but of course, by the 1930s, it would have done, and Ford could have got potential benefits as a result. Now, one of the strongest arguments against provable Ford funding is archival, because the Nazi Party's financial records as they exist, which isn't very good, don't show anything at all. Nothing. Zero. And German post-war investigations found no banking trail linking Ford or his companies to Nazi Party accounts. Now, and that, I think, the banking trail is quite important. So, but it needs to be pointed out that early Nazi finances were often cash-based, so those that gave them cash rather than put it through the bank, and they were deliberately unrecorded. And a donation from abroad, particularly as a company that was claiming to be nationalist, would likely be disguised or laundered in some way. So, having said that, there are things which show that Ford might have given indirect support. For example, the International Jew. Millions of copies were printed worldwide. They were translated into German before the Nazis seized power, and the Nazis actually handed them out, sometimes even free of charge. Now, this is important because it shows that somebody was financing the publication of these things. And Ford's work, if I can call it work, what Ford had done, was provided ready-made ideological content at zero cost. So somebody was printing the things for the Nazis, and who that was is not clear. And I would argue that in itself shows a financial support, even if it's indirect. Certainly in the modern electoral law, you'd have to declare that. If you had a printer doing things for you free of charge, you'd have to actually put that in your declaration. I mean, then they didn't bother, of course. Now, Ford's German company, the Ford-Werke AG, existed before the Nazis came to power, and it was economically significant. Whilst the Ford-Werke didn't fund the Nazi party directly, it did operate within the Nazi framework, and the Nazis themselves, because of their not so much Nazi, but Hitler himself, because of his support for the motor industry, did give a certain amount of prestige and influence in Germany, and it did benefit from elements of Nazi policy, particularly towards the motor industry. So, but having said that, it needs to be pointed out that other companies also in the motor industry also benefit. And I would argue that the Ford company didn't have particular benefits. Now, you do see this in other areas. I mean, this is corruption. I mean, you see this in lots of countries where you get corruption because of favoured people, because they have they're friends with somebody in the government. Now, in 1938, Hitler awarded Henry Ford the Grand Cross of the Supreme Order of the German Eagle. Now, this was the highest honour possible that a foreigner could get from Nazi Germany. But this award wasn't given to him in exchange for a financial donation. It was given for Ford's industrial importance in Germany, and his symbolic value to the regime, and probably more than anything else, as far as Hitler was concerned, it was given for his anti-Semitic writings. It does need, of course, to be pointed out that there were other people, including diplomats and industrialists, who had never had anything to do with the Nazi Party. They also got it. Now, after the war, Allied investigators looked into what Ford had actually done. Ford himself, he died shortly after the end of the Second World War. No charges of Nazi Party financing were brought against Ford or the Ford Motor Company, and what the focus, though, did look at was forced labour and wartime production. And in this case, evidence was absolutely overwhelming. So, in summary, there's no proven direct financing, but there's massive ideological support, there's public admiration and legitimization by Hitler of Ford, and there is corporate benefit for the Ford company. So I would say this, that Ford's influence mattered more than cash. But why does the continue to believe that Henry Ford funded the Nazi Party? Well, the first thing is because Hitler wanted it to people to believe this, and that makes sense. I can understand that from Hitler's point of view in the 1920s, because that way, if he thinks that Ford's funding him, then others might fund him as well. And Ford never repudiated this at all. He never said clearly he wasn't. No, he didn't repudiate Nazism. And Ford's anti-Semitism, of course, was predated. He started this anti-Semitic drivel out long before Hitler was even an anti-Semite himself. And so, but his anti-Semitism aligned with Nazi policy, or maybe it was Nazi policy which aligned with his anti-Semitism. And there is a sort of a moral intuition that such admiration must have included money, and that feels plausible, but that they have to have evidence, and not because of it. So anyway, Ford didn't need to write the checks out to shape the movement. His words, his reputation, and his industrial authority did that instead. So hope I've dealt with that myth of history, and if you're interested, then I upload every day 2000 hours my time, Central European time, because I live in Poland and in Germany, although I'm in the UK at the moment. And I on Tuesdays and Fridays I do longer videos such as this one, and on other days they are shorter videos. So sometimes they also do live talks, and so to know, and I break the pattern, so sometimes I put longer videos on other days as well. So to know what I'm doing, the best way to do it is to subscribe, press the bell as well, because if you press the bell, there's a better chance of being notified of the 46,500 subscribers or so what I've got. Maybe it's 47,000, something like that. I note that at very best, maybe 10,000 might get notified. At very, very best, of because I can see from the statistics, I can actually calculate how many people see things. Also because of YouTube's antics, not just not sending out subscriber notifications, but also doing things like pulling down my videos for no reason at all, for its copyright, scam. It works where companies claim that things that I put up is their copyright, and because of YouTube openly promoting AI slop, I have now had to do a membership only channel, and the membership only gives you access to more than 800 videos, which I've done, and that costs £5, €6 or $6, and various other currencies and various other places. And so I hope you might actually consider that. But for the moment, thanks for watching. Put a comment below. Bye for now.